couple of things. One is we need to work both on the supply side and the demand side. And when we look at supply, it is the supply of health and nutrition services. When we look at demand side, it is the actual education, health education, providing access to services to the most vulnerable women and children. So I'll give you a simple example. Dr. Nuru talked about the ICDS being one of the largest nutrition program in the world. The ICDS schemes, like Dr. Nuru said, are extremely good. So one of them is what is known as the take-home ration, which is free nutritious fortified food for pregnant women and malnourished children. And as we worked in the slums of Mumbai, we found that the families were feeding this take-home ration to the cattle, to the goats, to the dogs, etc. And the reason is because they didn't know what to do with it. So something as simple as nutrition demonstrations in the community with locally acceptable foods actually, and also ensuring that ICDS provides supply of take-home ration, help to increase the uptake of take-home ration by over 60% in a 2-year period. So there are multiple such interventions, but you need to work simultaneously on supply and demand side. The second issue is what Dr. Vinod talked about, is breaking the intergeneration cycle of poverty. You need to work at every stage of the reproductive life cycle. So you need to start with the adolescent girl to work on nutrition and anemia. You need to work on preconception care. So make sure you work with married adolescents, delay the age of marriage, delay the age of the first child. So there is a lot of nutrition education that has to happen throughout the life cycle. One important aspect we often forget about is the issue of domestic violence. We actually did a cohort study in our malnutrition program. The malnutrition program itself covered the whole of Dharavi, which is about 18,000 children. And we found in a 1-year period, we were able to reduce malnutrition very sharply by about 25%. But there was a small segment of about 4% of children who were just not coming out of malnutrition for a period of almost a year. When we actually did a qualitative study on these kids, we found that every one of them actually came from dysfunctional homes. So either there were cases of domestic violence, there were cases of mental health of the mother. So it is a multi-sectoral approach. It's a multidisciplinary approach. You can't look at nutrition in isolation. So there's water, there's sanitation. But having said that, one NGO cannot do everything. So the solution really then is to get into partnerships with other NGOs working on other aspects. And the third point I'd like to make is on convergent action. The way the infrastructure is set up by the government, we have health and nutrition looked after by 2 completely different departments who don't talk to each other. It's the same woman, the same child that is being addressed by 2 completely different segments. So I think it's not just working with the communities, it is also a lot of advocacy to work on systemic change on the supply side.
Thank you, Vanessa.
You know, if you have to bring about any impact, there has to be transformative change. And one of the things NGOs should be allowed to do is to actually pilot new ideas. Unfortunately, there is very little money going into actual research. So allowing an NGO, for example, giving NGO seed capital to try something new. It may fail, but that's okay. You need to provide that time, you need to provide that resource to NGOs. So I'll give you a simple example. We were trying to work on severe acute malnutrition, and we piloted a medical nutrition therapy, which was made in partnership with Sion Hospital and IIT Technology. That worked, and now we're working on a second pilot on 5 products, and 6 products. Interestingly, 3 of them are to combat junk food. There is a dual burden, like Dr. Nuru said, of obesity as well. And how do we ensure that a 1-year-old child does not consume kurkure and peppies and instead consumes healthy food? So these are the kind of investments that I think corporates should look at, invest in research, invest in pilots, invest in innovations, because one of them could actually provide that solution that could provide transformative change.